I was just gonna sneak down to the river and see if there was a bear around. And sure enough, there's one right there right now. So I'm gonna switch out lenses on this camera and big zoom lens, see if I can't get some good video. Then I'll share some emails. I'm starting to feel a little better now. Just give me a second. Man, that's a big bear. Man, that's a big bear. So it's basically the bear witching hour down here. I want to come down, hopefully find this huge bear that I knew of, and coincidentally it's the first bear I saw. I got some great video of him. And then just going up that same route they always do on the other side of the river. And then I was packing up my stuff, and then another big one came, same route as him. And then all of a sudden, two dogs were right behind me. I turned around just to make me shit my pants. Because of the raging of the river, I couldn't hear them, but anyway, now I'm set up right here, and I'm about to share some emails, but that bear, I just caught some big movement down there in those bushes, so I zoomed in on it. And it's kind of funny, you know, I'm watching those bushes getting mashed around. I knew something big and dark was there. It wasn't a person. Probably a bear. I'd imagine if it wasn't, that came out, right? Well, that'd have been something else. But anyways, this guy's on his way here. He's going to be, this bear coming up the bank is going to be about, I don't know, 5 yards away from me. And the wind's in my face. So that means he doesn't know I'm here. Who knows how old he is or how dumb he is, so. And I don't have a gun with me. I know the chances are 1 in a billion something will happen, but oh my luck, I'll run into the grumpy one, right? No gun, wind in my face, fair-sized bear coming my way, and he's getting in the trails right here, so I guess I better move. Yeah, I'll move. Let him go by. I'll go find somewhere else to share some emails for tomorrow morning. I'm starting to feel better. But that was pretty crazy. And I got to I saw the bear that I wanted to hopefully see this year. First time I came down looking for him. I don't have any trail cameras set up. I got him my trail camera on that log. Excuse me, last year. He is a big bear. Big bear. Can I get moving? These guys travel fairly quick. He's going to be in my lap in a minute, so I'll go find somewhere else to do this. All right, buddy. You gonna co-host again? It's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah. Tired of being in that room, especially after getting over being sick. You just want to be inside. But anyways, how was that for some crazy ass coincidence? So I fully went down to the river this time of the evening in hopes of seeing some certain bears. And I really was hoping that great big monster was still around from last year. And that, what happens is the very first bear I saw. Crazy. So I got some good video of him here. So then, I'm getting ready to, I switched up lenses, had a long telephoto lens on this camera, and I switched up the lenses again, and I was going to jump in the quad, and then quad back down the river to where that big boulder is in the river where I normally sit on the quad and share emails. And then I look back on my shoulder, here comes another bear, and it was a big one. So you got a big bear, but the first one was a frickin' huge bear. Then of course you can't help yourself, so I switched up the lenses again, and I went down there and I videotaped him, and he came walking up the same route. But when I went back up to the quad and switched up lenses, I turned around, there was two dogs right at my frickin' feet. So at first I was looking up and I was spinning around, I could hear, because I'm standing on the roots of that big cedar, and I could hear the ground moving. I could hear something, I could just sense something. And boom, there, right there under my feet, scared the crap out of me. Just some kind of a weird, one of those Australian healer things, sheepdog, little ones, those little spastic ones, and it looked like a miniature Irish setter or something. So anyway, then I finally packed up the stuff, and then I went on the quad and I went downriver to where I normally share videos. I'm looking around. And downriver, I seen some branches go whoosh, like this. And so I'm looking down and I'm like, what the hell is that? Because I've never seen anything downriver, especially on my side of the river. So I got the other video camera, which is the handheld Sony Handycam. And I aimed it down there and I held on that spot, and the branches were really moving. I was thinking to myself, wouldn't this be something else if what came out of that, what comes out of the bush, if it does come out, if it's gonna not be a bear, right? Wouldn't that have been something else? Hey, Ribby, come on, it's all right. It's okay, camera's rolling. And then, sure enough, another bear came out. And it wasn't a small one either, it was a fairly large bear. And he was working his way up to me on my side of the river. So, here's that video clip and I'll share what happened there. My baby boy, hey, my baby boy. Oh, new hat too. Another one of Sarah's new hats. They're pretty cool. They're on the shelf right now too. So anyway, coincidentally, I just got a text earlier. Whoa. Just had a wasp go up my frickin' ankle there. Anyways, I put out a little a heads up that I would do it. I'd do a podcast with David Nino. I don't know, but he seems to be on the same page as most of us. And I remember somebody, a lady from somewhere, Alberta, emailed me or something quite a while ago, offering up to contact him or contact me or him or whoever. Anyways, I got a text. Said I received a voicemail, which I never check voicemails. There's a text, and it's, David Nino's cell number, and I got his email. She said, I just left you a phone message. Hope you get over your strep throat soon. All right, so there we go. I got contact with him. And I appreciate that, and I will get a hold of him. I'll make sure I get all my camera gear set up. I get dialed in a laptop first, so there's no big fumbling around, and I'll see if he wants to do this. I don't see why I wouldn't. But it'd be good to at least be sure that we get somebody who's got substantial reach to be informed by the people first, right? Before he gets sucked into giving time to one of the so-called big names in the Bigfoot world, who, the particular ones that are intent on keeping everybody going in circles and only gaining camera time. So hopefully we can get all of you in there first, right? And get this good man filled with good, solid, honest knowledge. That's the point. Now, Who do we got? Who needs to be heard? Let's get right into it. Where are we? Somebody wants his chin scratched, but he's gonna have to wait. This one. Gotta share my story. When I was 11 to 12 years old, almost 45 years ago, I shared the story with my family and friends with just weird looks as a response. I don't really care if anyone believes me or not. I tell my story, people can take it however they choose. Anyway, here it goes. I'm an avid outdoorsman. Hunt, trap, and fish since I was 9 years old. There isn't anything really I haven't seen or experienced in regard to the outdoors where I come from, which is Western MY. Don't be nibbling on my shoulder. When I was growing up, I was a kid who left the house in the morning at first light and didn't get home until dusk. I was one kid who hunted heavily with a pellet rifle. If it walked or crawled, it was game, and everything I could catch became my pets. I would explore the woods and build lean-tos out of old dead trees and other ground cover. So I always carried knives and hatchets. One day, I took my cousin out with me. There's a few typos, all right? I took my cousin out with me. We went on a small lot of trees and wanted to find something to chop down. So we looked around and found an old, dead, standing tree. Yes, I was knowledgeable enough to not cut down healthy trees. Anyway, we started chopping the tree. After about 15 minutes, we heard a commotion in the leaves. This caused us to look in the direction of a dark figure approaching us. At first, this figure was on all fours like a bear, but as it approached closer, it stood on two legs and continued closer. This scared us. It caused us to start running back on our path toward home. As we continued, we thought we lost it. When we reached the road, we started walking the road, which had two cornfields parallel it with a hedgerow down the middle, approximately 150 yards from the road, for about a quarter mile to a small stream. We looked over at the hedgerow and noticed the dark figure paralleling us as we walked. It did this until we reached the creek. Anyway, we made it home without any additional sightings. This left a lot of questions through my life. What was it? Was it a man? If this was true, why would he have not just yelled out to us? And why would he creepily follow us that far? If it was a bear, I don't think it could walk that far on his hind legs. I've tried to talk to my cousin about it, but he refuses to talk about it. I may be different than others sharing stories with you, in that if it happened again, I would actually pursue it. And if necessary, would have one of these in the back of my truck. Tom from New York. All right, Tom. Appreciate your share, man. You know you're not, you know what you saw. You already know what you saw. You've probably heard me say it before, but dude, I would not encourage you to go trying to put holes in one of these people. Unless you absolutely have to, meaning you can see the whites of their eyes and their teeth showing and they're getting ready to beat you over the head, then obviously for sure, right? But I strongly advise you and anyone else who thinks you want to go out and put a hole in one intentionally, make sure you realize that if you go pick that fight, there's probably a big chance you're going to lose, and it's going to be for keeps, right? You have to think about that one. Another thing too is, another way to look at it, I mean, these are not a monkey, all right? They're a very intelligent being. Now, how would you feel if they saw you and decided they needed to kill you to throw you over their shoulder to bring back and show their buddies? It's a two-way street out there. Once you get out in the real world, there's no rules. It's all for keeps on both sides, right? With all nature, including us. It's all for keeps. So be sure, before you go picking a fight, be sure who you're trying to pick that fight with, right? Be safe. Use your common sense. Use your common sense, and then use the knowledge that the people share here with you, all right? Who's next? All right, listen to this. This is titled, No Title. Hey Steve, my name is Scott. Why can't I see? Okay. I've watched you before, but lost track. You know, people get busy with life. My girlfriend came home the other day and said a guy she worked with told her to tell me there was a guy who tells Bigfoot stories and I should check him out. Well, I replied to her that after looking on YouTube, I know of this guy. I used to watch him. I'm finally ready to tell you about my 2 encounters. It's been since 2000 when it happened, and I've only told 3 people. I guess because of the fear of ridicule and or being made fun of, but here it goes. In 2000, I was living in Michigan, and then hunted about an hour or so as the crow flies from my house. The forest I hunted in was pretty big. I only hunted 200 acres of it. Excuse me. I wasn't north in the UP. I was in the lower part of Michigan, around a town called Mayville, Michigan. I got up early, around 3 or so in the morning. This morning would have no moon. When I got to the property, it was already uncanny. No wind, nothing, dead still. I got my gear and started the hike down the 2-track towards my stand, which was about 400 yards from the house and my car. I had to walk down about 30 feet to the house, to the base of the forest. Let me say, this forest ran for several miles. It was pretty big. When I got inside, I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. It was that dark. I turned to my left and headed for the game trail. Now, mind you, I always go into the woods with a flashlight turned on, but held down on my thigh just so I can see every once in a while so I don't trip. I walked a few more steps. When I got to the game trail, which I always took to my stand, I turned to the right, started down the game trail, took about 10 steps, when to my right, I heard what I thought to be a huge something get up. It seemed to me to be about 600 to 800 pounds. It made so much sound I'll never forget. It startled the hell out of me. I've spooked deer and other animals. They always take off, flee the area. Deer snort at you. We're hunters, you know what I mean? This thing was just standing in the dark. I froze immediately, freaked me out. Then it started to move. I could hear how big it was at every step. The weird thing is that it was trying to be stealthy. What animal does that? It was like so intelligent. It was like it just wanted to get away. It took a few steps behind me. I was so afraid to move, I didn't know if any second it was going to charge me. It would take a few steps, then stop. Then I thought, I have to get to my stand. It was about 150 yards in front of me, so I started walking, and it started walking. I would stop, it would take one extra step, but stop almost like it didn't know when I was going to stop. It was mimicking me. I froze again with fear. I never had the hair stand up on my neck before. This is really happening. I thought, screw it, I have 100 yards to cover to my stand. I thought if this thing wants me, it could get me at any time, and I took off running for my life. I kept hearing it walking at a faster pace to the east. I got to my stand, climbed up, retrieved my bow, and just sat there, hearing it faintly walking away, thinking to myself, what the F was that? I got down at about 11 a.m. I didn't look for tracks or anything. I was out of there. It took me till 2003 to even tell anyone about it. I never went back there either. Now let me tell you, I have found some tree breaks out there over the course of 30 years. But I just denied to myself that this could be real. I would hear every once in a while about Sasquatch, but only in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia. Never would I think it would be in Michigan. Yeah, and meanwhile, it's one of the hottest places ever. One of the hottest states ever, right? My second encounter. I now live in Indiana and hunt my girlfriend's mom and dad's property. In 2015, I was hunting in November. The rut was on and I hunted the whole day, just sat there in my stand. It was so nice and the action was great. I ended up empty-handed though, and the sun was going down, and I prepared to get down out of my stand and head back to the house to grab some food. I know. Scratch me. The sun was almost down. Pink sky on the horizon. Anyone who hunts knows when it's like this, and you're in the woods, it gets pretty dark, but if you're on the outside of the woods, you can still see. I come out of the woods and I was walking in a bean field towards the house. There were leaves in the woods all over, so getting in there was impossible without bumping wildlife. So as I was walking, I heard footsteps walking through the woods right towards me. It was definitely bipedal. Then all of a sudden, it stopped, and I could not see what it was, but I knew it was just inside the woods. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I flashed back to the year 2000 when I heard basically the same pattern of footsteps, and it shook me to the core. I immediately went to a crouching position in the bean field, facing it, wondering what the hell is that? Wild animals don't act like this. Most of them take off. They don't stand in the dark woods and stare at you. I just have never experienced that Okay, hold on, sorry. I just have never experienced that. I was gripped with fear, afraid to move. I knew something was watching me. It was starting to get darker out, and here I am crouched down in a bean field in Indiana. I sat there trying to figure out what to do, frozen with fear, when all of a sudden it let out 2 blood-curdling screams. It was so loud it cut right through me, and I was about 75 yards away from it. I could feel sound wave through my chest. That was it for me. I took off sprinting so fast that Jesse Owens couldn't have caught me. I got up by the corner of the woods and stopped, and I listened. Nothing. I kept waiting for it to walk out into the field where I just was, but nothing. I remembered that there was nobody at the house but me, so I slowly walked backwards to the front of the house, got my gear all off and left, wondering what had just taken place. It's hard when things happen and you can't explain it. You can't possibly wrap your mind around what just happened. I still hunt there, and I go out in the dark to my stand. After the encounter in 2000, like they say, you have to get back up on that horse after it throws you, right? Every time I go out to a hunting spot in the dark, it's in the back of my mind. I can't explain it, but I know one thing: deer don't move like that, or any other animal with the intelligence of these things. And you don't have to be in the Pacific Northwest or British Columbia to experience this. They are everywhere. After this, I really didn't care what anybody thinks. Thanks, Steve. I hope you read this. And if you want to use my name, it's Scott Seymour. I can't explain it, but these 2 encounters really happened to me, and I don't want another. Thanks, Scott. Oh, I'm picking up what you're putting down, Scott, and welcome to the club, man. Welcome to the club of no return, right? You're another of many. I don't know how many. How many? How many are in this club? And just so you know, every time you walk your stand in the dark, I'm thinking the exact same thing you're thinking when I'm walking in the dark, or when I'm going to bed in the middle of frickin' nowhere on the ground, right? It's just what it is, man. Once you know, you know. You'll never forget it, and you can't stop thinking about it. I mean, you can to a point. You can control it enough that it doesn't drive you absolutely insane and make you become a golfer or a shopper or something, or a gamer, right? You gotta try to keep your emotions under controlled and under a low roar, so that it doesn't annihilate your passion and your time that you deserve to be in the real world. But I'm doing the same thing you are every time I walk up that mountain in the dark. I'm thinking, not today. I'm not into it. Not this morning. Not today. Maybe another day, but not today. I really want to go hunting. But anyway. I'm feeling way better than I have the past couple of days. I didn't realize how much of a frickin' temperature I was running the other day. It was pretty messed up. I got slammed with vitamins. Gargled with a, she said it was a medicated mouthwash. Gargled that a few times. She's crammed me full of handfuls of different vitamins. I didn't go get any antibiotics, and I didn't go get any drugs. And just so you know, I normally don't get that sick. And I think it's probably because almost all of my food is natural food that I've caught. Caught or shot. And now what we've grown. So there's not too much outside influence once it comes to what I gobble up. Hey, mums. Oh. All right, who's next? This is titled Alberta. Hi Steve, I shared a story with you last year about a sighting I had in north central Alberta. And don't ask me why I wanted to bring this up. I just figured I'd share some light on my happenings. And sharing the last story helped me put some of the fears to rest. That is frickin' good news. I love reading that. That's why we're here. September 2017, I seem to have bugled one of these damn things in the bow range. Yes, his facial expression branded in my mind. What a pleasure. I've never gone back to that area to hunt. I've been there quadding, but after the 10-kilometer mark, your spidey senses start screaming at you to maybe turn around and make a mile. Get the F out. I also checked out a website that includes sighting maps, and what do you know? There's been a couple within 30 kilometers. Anyhow, last fall I tried finding an elk herd that was moving out of an adjacent valley up into big timber and minimal livestock pasture, 8 or so miles east of my original sighting. That was my comfort zone. I brought the wife and son along as usual. I'm usually back in camp by the time they wake up in the morning. Gives me lots of time to spend with my little guy in the bush. This was a 5-mile quad trip in from a Métis settlement road. I found a ridge line that backed onto a lake. The bottom of that ridge line was a finger or funnel into thick spruce and willow stands, which eventually turned into lodge poles, stands so thick you couldn't throw a rock through in a good day. Good shade for those September elk, and with the lake at their backs, they could probably rest easy from the wolves and whatnot. We camped on that ridge well back and downwind to where I intended on hunting. That morning, I put on the usual 10 kilometers and found good sign. The bulls weren't talking. I bugled and was surrounded by 7 or 8 coyotes and 1 lone wolf howl. I'll take that any day, I thought, after having flashbacks to 2017. The coyotes were easily within bow range by the time they decided the gig was up. That explained why the elk weren't talking. I carried on for about a mile or so, and I had the feeling a few times almost like I was lost and started to panic, but I knew exactly where I was. It was a strange sensation, which I no longer swallow since my sighting. I made my way back to camp and spent the afternoon chasing chickens in clear cuts with the little guy. Evening hunting time soon rolled around, and I found myself in the thick stuff. There was 2 open pastures with a mile of timber between them, and I found a lick smack dab in the middle of it. The hunt was uneventful, but I still hunted and kept the calls turned off that evening. Nothing. Back to camp before dark. I don't play around in the bush solo after dark anymore. Say what you will. Supper was great. Evening wind was down, also good. It was a clear September night with a cold enough chill to turn the leaves yellow. I was happy. On my ass next to a fire with the ones I love, snoring in the tent. It was around 11:30 p.m. While I was just running through the mental file cabinet while staring at the fire when I heard something, or felt it, or both. I could feel the ground moving, and this sounded like an Olympic sprinter running. Holy shit, I'm being charged. I started yelling, "Hey bear!" trying to sound like I'm 10 feet tall, while quick drawing and slamming around into my poor backup rifle. Not that this 270 is good for much stopping power. It has a good sense of security at the time. As soon as I did that, it stopped. I didn't hear any more footfalls or anything like you would if it was a bear retreating, but I still felt my ears ringing and the rush of adrenaline pulsing, that intuition stuff. I was being watched, and I better be okay with it. It's 5 miles out in the dark and you don't want your company panicked. You better figure it out. My mind was now racing. I grabbed my headlamp, walked out. Wasp. I grabbed my headlamp and walked out to the nearby cut line in the direction the running came from. The cut line was divided by a row of... Come on, go eat something else. The cut line was divided by a 4-row fence down the center. At this point, I'm almost hoping to run into a bear so I could displace the panic attack. It was easily bright enough to see 100 yards without the light on. Go figure, nothing there. No sounds at all. If it was a bear, I would have heard it clearing that fence. I didn't let the fire die that night and was so disturbed by daylight that I made the decision to pack up onto greener pastures, so to say. Every time I go back to this country, something happens that scares the shit out of me. But strangely, that area seems to call me back to it as well. I started leaving offerings, and some strange stuff started to happen. I'll save that for another day. I'm glad you opened up this topic. I no longer feel like I'm selling snake oil. Stay humble and keep up the work, my friend Dusty. Okay, Dusty, I don't know how long ago you sent this, but 2020. Holy shit, buddy. Sorry it took a while, but we got it. I'm guessing by now you probably figured out that leaving things might not be that good of a thing to do if you want to be left alone, right? Everybody do what you're gonna do, but I've said it a lot of times. Hold on a sec. Sorry. If you want to be left alone and just enjoy the real world, you probably want to leave them alone. You know what I mean? If you want attention, leave them stuff. Bring them gifts and keep it in your mind. I'm sure that all you got to do is think in your mind, here you go, I brought you something, leave it there and leave. They already know what you thought about. And they grabbed it. Now they're looking forward to you bringing them something else again, maybe. And now they think it's okay to let you know that they're there. And then they start scaring the shit out of you when you didn't really want it, right? So you might want to think about that before leaving stuff. Probably, if you really want to hunt there and be left alone, just say flat out, man, leave me alone. Just leave me alone, right? Anyway, maybe update us. That was a little while ago. Update us with what's gone down since, if anything. Especially if it's going to help some people here, all right? All right, I'm going to read one more, and then I'm going to go in. This is titled, Dude. Hi, Steve. Many thanks for all you do. I'm a former Marine, Vietnam, 69-70. Excuse me. I grew up in Los Molinos, California, hunting, fly fishing, and collecting arrowheads and stuff. After the Marines, I worked for State Fish and Game and Fisheries. Studied archaeology in college. I retired from civil service in 2008. I'll get right to them. It's 1986. I have 2 weeks leave, and I'm packing into Thousand Lakes Wilderness alone for 10 days of float tube fly fishing. I'm paralleling a game trail through that short ground cover manzanita. Down the trail directly toward and past me stumbles an exhausted and terrified, otherwise healthy buck with a perfect, tiny 3-point rack. He looked right at me, rolling his eyes, terrified. I thought that's new behavior. I continued on half a mile or so to the small lake where I would camp, planning to hike to a different lake daily. The next morning, the next morning, need to have a little walk, you know, get the lay of where I'm staying at night. It's so nice I have on a pair of running shoes and my glasses, as it's obvious I've got the place to myself. Back where I encountered the small buck, not too far, 100 yards or so past, I see his very distinctive horns sticking up from behind a waist-high log. I stand there for a moment, and close enough I can hear deer flies. I take one more step and crash, giant crash, right behind the fallen log and a bunch of piled up stuff out of my sight. But right there, 10 yards maybe, it went crash, crack, loudest crack I've ever heard, then crash, 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 off on 2 feet, about 40 yards and stops. Happens really fast. I always felt Sasquatch was real, but having no access to sighting reports or observations of behavior, I never thought I could be in their habitat. I'd just stand there thinking I witnessed the craziest bear behavior ever, and maybe should mind my own business. So I stroll off, trying to be nonchalant, intending to avoid the area going out. I spent 10 days of float tube wilderness fly fishing, left alone, as far as I know. Didn't carry a firearm in the woods then. Around here, bears don't wood knock, run on 2 legs, or stop before they clear the next ridge. I believe a tummy full of venison saved me that morning. Fast forward 2007 or so, small natural lake northeast of Mount Shasta, California. Spent many summer vacations there with Grandpa and Grandma, so always have gone back. A large extended local family, Tule Lake, Tule Lake, T-U-L-E Lake. I remember we'd gather every spring for a week's camping and great bass fishing. All day long they would yell, "Dude!" and hold up a fish. This is about 500 times a day at least. They had the best time, and every evening sitting around the fire. And say, "Dude," 1,000 times at least. Seems like they usually stay about a week. So, they've been gone a day or so, long enough for me. I get the cigarette butts picked up. Got the lake all to myself again. No way for anyone to come even close unnoticed. Laying in the tent, reading by headlamp. It's calm and quiet. From about 40 feet and loud. Dude. I mean, it had that quality. It wasn't just loud, it was big. Once again, I didn't even think Sasquatch lived anywhere I hung out. I rearranged the kimber I slept with and tried to read on, remembering how futile it usually is trying to track these noises at night. And just a minute later, dude, right above the opposite tent corner from where I lay, came from horse-sized lungs and about 2 feet higher than the tent corner. It was directed straight at me and without a big scream or roar, more of a sound or call or a mimic, but it said, "Dude," and it was right there. Still not realizing what was happening, I retreated under the covers, kimber in hand. Kimber is a gun. Evidently that was it. So when morning arrived, I hadn't shot myself. My wife drove up that day to spend the weekend, and that next morning, we're laying in the tent. A baseball-sized rock comes whizzing into the tree directly over the tent and onto the ground. Neither of us know squat about Sasquatch behavior, and there's no humans around, period. I can't think of any explanation, so I tell her, "That was Jehovah, reminding you, time for hubby's coffee." I don't remember getting coffee made, but we made a small laugh. I'm sure the hairy scamp expected us to crap ourselves, which we would have, had we known. I don't speculate on who would have got pushed out of the tent. My name is Kim LeBaron. These things happen to me, and my yes means yes. All right, Kim. Appreciate it, man. At least it sounds like you got a good attitude about it. And I think by now you probably know, all of us, most of us know that these beings, they mimic our words, they mimic our relatives' voices. They mimic babies. They mimic all sorts of stuff. Pretty bizarre, right? That would be something else to hear, a deep, low, guttural word, "dude," belted out at you and rattling your ribcage. That would be a little comical and a little scary at the same time. And I wonder how many of you out there just said, I'd say, "dude," right back, right? Who knows? But anyway, there you go. There you go. I gotta go to bed. I gotta go eat some more vitamins, some more Tylenol, go to bed, and hopefully tomorrow I'm gonna be back in wood splitting shape. And good to get the horses on the camera. I haven't shown too many of the animals lately, have I? Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you're going to get your honest truth shared word for word, no matter how crazy you think it might sound, all right? I think Sarah will have all of the ladies' stuff up in the store, I think, tomorrow. I guess she's waiting on the place she got it to see if she get their photos of the items, because they're better than what she thinks we could do here. I tried to get her to model them. I wouldn't just put the shirt on and model it. She's like, "No, I'm not doing that." Oh, God. Whatever. But all these new hats are up. There's a whole pile of real cool new hats that are in the store now. So the link's down there somewhere. And I'll be back shortly.